network security, authentication, radius. We'll have a few videos dedicated to authentication and protocols that make it happen. The reason for that is that it is really important. In the CCNA security training, in many cases people do not pay enough attention to authentication, and that's what security is all about. You want to authenticate your users, you want to make sure that they can connect. You should know how to set up a radius server in Windows Server 2008. The reason for that is that it might be your job. Even though you say, oh, I'm not an infrastructure engineer, what do you want from me? Well, in many companies, that is your job, to set up a radius server in Windows Server 2008, 12, and so on. I'll show you how it's done, what you have to do to make it work. As an example, I will use an ASA firewall and SBS 2008. I will have a dedicated video to two-factor authentication as well, and I'll show you how I implemented that again on a firewall, and there is an application running on my mobile phone that makes it work. It's not difficult, but you have to know how it works. We're going to start with authentication and radius. In general, I show you how we can set it up on an ASA firewall first, and in Windows 2008 as well. Here on the screen you can see radius protocol. We have a server and a radius server, right? There is a question, okay, is this user allowed to connect? Yes, he is. And this request will be accepted or rejected. Of course, this is CCNA Real World Labs. That's why we are not going to cover the radius protocol in details, how it works. I assume that you know all these things. We want to focus on labs and real world examples. That is the ASA firewall we're going to use. Authentication and radius. On ASA, we go to device management, and here we have users and our AAA server group. What I am interested in is this one, radius SBS 2008. I'll show you. Just click add, you create a new group. Yeah, and protocol is radius. Of course, you can use TACAX, LDAP. It all depends what you want. We want to focus on radius. Here you can use the default values if you want. Then when you have a group, you can add a server or servers. You just click add. You specify the interface, which is really important. Make sure that you go for the correct interface that faces your radius server. A very common mistake. IP address, timeout, in most cases I think I changed that to 5. Port number, I changed this value as well to make it faster. And our secret key that has to match on your firewall and on an SBS 2008 server. Okay, we don't use that one. I will edit the one that I've got. Again, it's a live network, that's why I have to be more careful with that. Interfaces inside. SBS is 172.16.1.2. Timeout, well, I lied to you. I didn't change that. That's wrong. I should have done it. Well, my secret key, which I'm not going to show you this time, and that's it. Let me RDP to the server. That is SBS 2008. Okay, that's, I don't know, it's something with SQL Server. From time to time what I have to do, I have to go to SQL Server Manager and just restart these guys. I don't know why. I tried to sort it out and I couldn't. It just SQL takes like 4 or 5 gig. Well, I do it once a week and just left it alone. In Windows Server 2008, we go for Network Policy Server. If you don't have it in place, then you have to add it. It's a role in Windows Server 2008. You go to Server Manager. I show you that. Be very careful. Again, that's what I said. In many companies, it is going to be your job. Be very careful. I have done it hundreds of times and I have never broken a server. Still, every time I remember, every time I add a role and on a Windows Server 2008 or 12, it's just like, okay, what if it breaks? What if something goes wrong? Be very careful. Well, careful. It's like next finish, and if it dies, you can say whoops. Okay, you go to roles, and it will show you that one of the roles is NPS, Network Policy Server. Literally, it's next finish. I'm not showing you that because it's literally next finish. No special questions. It's pretty slow. Okay, we'll leave it for now. Or I can pause the video. Just stay with me. Here we go. Network policy and access services, right? That's what you're after. Okay. Here, there are 2, sometimes 3 things that you have to do. First of all, you have to add a Radius client. Okay. You can see I've got 4 clients. One of them is ASA. You just right click here and create a new client. Friendly name is just a name, IP address, and your secret key. That's it. You can leave it as Radius standards. That's what I do for ASA. Not sure if it makes any difference if you go for Cisco. In my opinion, it doesn't if you just use a standard Radius protocol options and nothing fancy. That should be okay. ASA, IP address, Radius standard, and it's enabled, right? Another thing that you need is a network policy, something that will allow you to match the rules that are in place. For my ASA, and that's what you do in the real world, there are 2 things that you want to do, at least 2 things. First of all, that is something you have to do. You have to match an IP address or a friendly name. I'll show you that. It's pretty simple. If you create new, let's do it actually. Let's call it test. It's fine. And here you add conditions. And one of the things that you have to start with is a friendly name or an IP address. I remember that is a tip for you. I know most people go for a friendly name because it makes more sense. Unfortunately, I had some problems with friendly names on this server. I don't remember why, but I remember I had some issues. That's why I decided to go for an IP address. Yeah, but of course you can click here, add, and just say ASA. Okay, friendly name ASA. Yeah, or you could add an IP address. Now, what is really important, and it's optional, however, well, to be honest, I have never seen a network without that. You want to specify a user group. You want to tell that if you want to authenticate, whatever, it doesn't matter why. It can be a VPN connection or wireless to manage a device. Doesn't matter. You have to be in a group. Please remember, it is an Active Directory account. You want to make sure that this user is in a group in a correct group, right? You click add groups, and here you can just go to advanced and search all, and you'll have all groups. You can create a new dedicated group. That's what most companies do. They create a dedicated group, and thanks to that you can have a group for wireless, for, I don't know, firewalls, VPNs, local area networks, and so on. In my case, I use a standard, I think it's a standard built-in group, Windows SBS Virtual Private Networks users. Okay. Here, I think there was one more thing that I want to show you something. I think in the, where was it? Yeah, I think you have to tick that guy. I think it's not going to work if you don't. I do that. I know it's a PAP, but it's local area network. It's not a big issue for me. You can use TACAX if you want to make it more secure. Okay, that is Windows Server 2008. I encourage you to download. You can download a Windows Server 2008 12 and play with it. All you need is VMware or Microsoft Virtual PC, it doesn't matter. You can set it up, play with it, make sure that you enable Active Directory, you have a domain controller, everything that you need for Radius, right? Let's go back to the ASA. On the ASA, what we can do, we can test it, right? I want to authenticate my account in Active Directory is Wi-Fi. That is my VPN account, because I use this AAA group for VPNs. I'll show you that. And it is okay. I will test it again and specify a wrong password. Whatever. And please note, authentication rejected. It's really important. It's rejected. It means that I was able to reach that server and the server said, nah, I don't like it. Something is wrong. I'm not sure if this one is available. Have not used that for a while, to be honest. Let's check that guy. There's a chance it's offline. Can you see how long it takes? Oh, sorry, no, it was rejected as well. That was a bad example. Okay, let's add a new server, right? Inside, let's specify something that does not exist. 1.177. Cisco. I want to show you. You have to apply it. Oh, there is no. That's bad. Preview. Okay. And let's test it. Whatever, doesn't matter. And now it should show us, well, this request has timed out. It's really important to understand the difference because it means I cannot reach that server. It's really important when you have AAA because if you see a message like that, in most cases it will fail over to, for instance, local database or enable password and so on. Do you remember AAA on a router, for instance, when you should add your backup solution, right? For instance, you go for Radius and then you follow it. You say, well, just in case use local. And that's the only moment when it's going to happen. Please remember that if the password is if the username does not exist or password is incorrect, it will not fail to the local database. Okay, let me delete that guy. Okay, that's how you add it. Yeah, it's again really important. I have made a mistake here hundreds of times, maybe not hundreds, but many times. Please remember to specify the correct interface. It's really important if you have 50 or 60 interfaces, sub-interfaces, DMZ, and test it straight away. In this video we talked about authentication and radius. That was part 1. I showed you what you need to do to enable NPS and radius on Windows Server 2008 and how you can test it from an ASA file, and you can add a AAA group on the same platform. Thank you very much.